Welcome to another ZAGSBLOG Zoom series interview. Today I'm joined by Adam Zagoria. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jacob. How you doing? You got that hair rocking, man.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm excited for the tournament. So let's start things off talking about all these coaching changes. We've seen a lot of fires. We've seen a lot of guys get hired. So Adam, where do you want to start? What coaching job do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this time of year, it's they call it the coaching carousel. Obviously, Jacob, there's a lot of movement here in the last couple days. I mean, you had in the Big Ten, obviously, two coaches let go there. Penn State hired a new coach, and Micah Shrewsbury, Minnesota parts ways with Richard Pitino, who was he unemployed for like a day or two before he goes to New Mexico. I think the Dave Lato situation in the Big Ten at DePaul, a lot of people saw that coming. DePaul's, I think, finished in last place in the Big East 5 straight years. It's a tough place to win. Um, some other, obviously Albany opened up, and Dwayne Killings from Marquette goes there. The big one is Indiana, right? Obviously, Indiana's a blue blood, one of the winningest programs of all time. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I will say that I've heard from a number of African American coaches and advocates for African American coaches who are, there's been some progress there. Obviously, Micah Shrewsbury at Penn State, um, uh, Earl Grant at Boston College, uh, Dwayne Killings moving from Marquette to Albany, all African American guys. At Indiana, I talked to someone who said they'd like to see, maybe a Mike Woodson, right? Played at Indiana. He's an assistant with the Knicks now. Maybe he could be considered there. Um, Laval Jordan mentioned there, by some people who would like to see some more African American candidates. Dennis Gates. But there's a lot of names obviously at Indiana. John Beeline and Thad Matta are being mentioned. Scott Drew at Baylor. I think Brad Stevens and Rick Pitino pretty much both said they're out. So that's obviously the biggest fish. But what were your takeaways so far?
Yeah, I was a big fan of the hiring of Dwayne Killings at Albany. I think he's a great fit there, and he's done a great job at Marquette. Specifically from the recruiting angle, I think that he'll help them bring in some high quality recruits. I think that was really one of my favorite hires that I've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean the Big East. Look, there are a lot of talented, hardworking assistant coaches throughout the country. Definitely a bunch in the Big East. Dwayne Killings is at Marquette, Kamani Young at UConn, my guy Dwayne Woodard at Seton Hall, Akbar at Georgetown. And these guys can coach. They're learning from good. They've learned from good coaches, and they're also tremendous recruiters. So I think you'll see some of those other names, follow Dwayne Killings going forward. Another guy I like is Cody Toppert. He's, not African American. He's a white guy. He's at Memphis. Really young, smart, aggressive coach on Penny Hardaway's staff. He did interview at New Mexico, which went to Richard Pitino. But I think what you're going to see is like these younger guys, like a Nate Oates comes in and wins the SEC regular season and tournament titles. He's a younger guy. He's playing an up-tempo NBA style. He's kind of blown away some of these older coaches, guys in their 60s and 70s. And a guy like Cody Toppert, I think, sort of models himself in that vein.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of these coaches, they'll have a lot to live up to with some of these recent hires that we've seen in the past few years that have come in and made some instant impact, such as Oklahoma State, Mike Boynton. He's been there a few years now, and you just published that article on Cade Cunningham. You mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure, Jacob. We just did a Zoom with Mike Boynton, the Oklahoma State coach, and Cade Cunningham. And, Cade, what I took away from it was Cade talked a lot about his daughter. He's got a 2-year-old daughter named Riley, who I think, not a lot of people knew about. really including myself, before today. And he's obviously, very proud and excited and happy about his daughter. Um, I guess she stays in Texas with the mom and Cade's family and kind of splits time there. But she's been to about 12 Oklahoma State games this year, home and away. And he posted some pictures of her with him, the two of them on Twitter. And, he said it was his motivation. It's kind of forced him to mature a little bit. And, this is a guy who's going to be the number one pick in the draft in a couple months. So he's got a lot on his shoulders, but he's just a very impressive, very down to earth, thoughtful guy. He cares about his teammates a lot. He talked about, the whole Oklahoma State thing, where obviously they got a postseason ban in June. He took a couple weeks to think about it. He could have gone to Kentucky, right? He could have gone to the G League. He could have gone to Australia. He could have done anything. He stayed loyal to Oklahoma State because, he's close to the staff, the players. Obviously, his brother was hired there. And he also told me that, his daughter was 4 hours away in Texas, and that was a big draw. So, this guy's going to be a huge star here in the next couple weeks in the NCAA tournament. They could have they play Liberty in the first round, Jacob, which is not, that's not going to be easy, but they could have a Sweet 16 matchup with number one Illinois. You'd have, AO against Cade there, the two All-Americans. One stat I found interesting I mentioned in the story is in the last 10 years, only two number one draft picks have gotten to the Final Four. Anthony Davis in 2012, he won it with Kentucky. Karl Anthony Towns, 2015, they started 38-0. They lost in the national semifinals to Wisconsin. Other than that, Zion was the number one pick. That Duke team was supposed to be unbeatable. They lost in the Elite Eight to Michigan State in a game I was at. And then you had a bunch of those guys, Markelle Fultz, Ben Simmons, Anthony Edwards, who kind of went to, out of the way schools a little bit, LSU, Washington, instead of a Kentucky or a Duke. They ended up not making the tournament. And, one of the reporters asked Cade, what makes you different? He said, because I hate to lose. So it's really a lot at stake here if Cade Cunningham can get that team to a Final Four, he really kind of burnishes his resume and his legend going forward.
Yeah, personally, as someone that's followed the Big 12 all season, he's been as good as advertised. He's been great to watch, and I've also been impressed with a lot of the other guys on that Oklahoma State roster on how they've developed this season to really provide Cade with a really good supporting cast.
Yeah, as in a situation like that, when you have one guy who's getting a lot of the attention, like Ben Simmons, they made that whole documentary about him at LSU. He seemed in that documentary, he seemed kind of isolated and lonely. I mean, obviously he's from Australia, he's from another country. There was more going on there, but Cade really seems connected to his teammates, the staff, his coach. They all root for each other. They're in a situation like that. There easily could be jealousy and people unhappy that Cade's getting all the love and all the attention, all the awards. He was named first team, All-America today, as you wrote. But, he really roots for his teammates. He knows he can't succeed without them. They all have different skill sets. He wants them to enjoy the NCAA tournament and excel. So he's really everything you would want and like about college basketball. People could talk about the overtime league and the G League and going to Australia and all these things, but I don't think there's really anything like March Madness, playing for a college, even if it's just for 1 year, with all that comes with it.
Yep, and as we mentioned, Oklahoma State will be facing Liberty on Friday. Adam, moving on to talk about the NCAA tournament, who are some of the teams that you're looking out for, and maybe who are you picking to make it to the Final Four?
Yeah, at first I'm going to give you, I know you didn't ask me that, I'm going to give you a quick couple possible upset picks. Everybody loves that 5-12 matchup. The last time there was an NCAA tournament, 2019, 3 of the 4 12s beat a 5. Now, one intriguing game here is obviously Winthrop, which is 23-1, plays a really up-tempo, fast-paced offense against a Villanova team that is missing Colin Gillespie, their senior point guard, with a knee injury. The question, they force a lot of turnovers Winthrop, I think, on like 23% of the opposing team's possessions. Are they going to be able to turn over Villanova? Villanova, let's not forget, has won 2 of the last 4 national championships. If Colin Gillespie was healthy, they'd be in the mix to win another one. And it's really a tough break here for them that he's not. That's an intriguing game. Another 12-5 game, Colorado as the 5, Georgetown as the 12. The Hoyas were under 500 all year. They just won 4 games here in New York in 4 days to win the Big East tournament. Patrick Ewing's going to the tournament for the first time as a coach. Can they carry that momentum against McKinley Wright, a really good Colorado team? And then I got to mention my Rutgers guys. I'm here in New Jersey. They're a 10 seed against a 7 Clemson. Rutgers hasn't been in the tournament, Jacob, in 30 years since, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Yeah. So before you were born, the older George Bush was president. Mariah Carey was on the top charts. I had hair longer than yours. That's the last time Rutgers was in the tournament. But I think that, all things considered, getting Clemson in their first game is not a bad draw for them. I think they have more ways to score than Clemson does. Ron Harper, Geo Baker, they'll be fired up. The Rutgers fans will be fired up. The problem is whoever wins that game is going to have to play Houston as a 2 seed in the next round. All that said, I got my Final Four. I got Gonzaga, Baylor. I got Oklahoma State coming out of that region, beating Illinois. And then I got Alabama with Nate Oates. I think Gonzaga is going to win it all. I think there's about a 60% chance they run the table. The Zags, I think Mark Few and the Zags kind of have to win a championship to justify and legitimize all their hype this year. Who do you got in the Final Four?
Yeah, I got 3 1 seeds in the Final Four. I know I'm
pretty
thinking
chalky,
but my thoughts are it's a neutral court for everyone, and I think that that could impact some of the games in this tournament. So I'm going Gonzaga, Texas, Baylor, and Illinois. I think, and I'm picking the Zags to win it. I think I know they get a lot of scrutiny for not having a tough conference schedule, which they can't really control, but they played a very tough non-conference schedule. And if you look at that roster, it's hard to find a weak spot.
Yeah. I mean, look, the one argument is that they haven't really been tested in the conference schedule, but they whacked Virginia. They beat Kansas. They beat West Virginia. They beat Iowa fairly handily. And I think a couple of those teams are in their bracket, if I'm not mistaken. So they will already have the confidence of beating those teams. They did give up 84 points a game, I think, in those 4 games. So they're going to have to probably play some better defense in the tournament, but they can go out and drop 90 on you at any time. They got 3 Naismith Player of the Year finalists. You got 4 or 5, serious offensive options. So they're going to be fun to watch. And, it'll almost, you hate to say this, but it's almost a failure if they don't win it.
Adam, thank you again for joining me. You can find Adam on Twitter at Adam Zagoria. You can find ZAGSBLOG on Instagram at ZAGSBLOG Hoops, and you can find both of our work on zagsblog.com. Adam, thank you again.
Thanks, Jacob. Enjoy the hoops, my man. Peace out.